Okay, so we have it here. This is a form of passive transport. Again, we don't see this molecule called ATP. We don't see any energy being expended here. And we see molecules moving on down the concentration gradient. Another form of passive transport that really I think is often misused, the term osmosis, is a very specific form of passive transport. Okay? And the thing that's specific here is it involves a membrane. It is a semi-permeable membrane. Permeable means things can move through, but not everything can. It's only semi-permeable. In this case, the water can move through, the solvent can move through, but the solute, these molecules that are dissolved in the water, they're too big, they're too charged, right? They're too nonpolar. They just will not move through this membrane. So, but same rules apply. Again, I said it's passive transport, so we can only move down concentration gradients. Okay. So this one, it really is kind of confusing in a way until you think about, the way I think about this is, what's the concentration of water on the left side of the gradient here? Is there more water per volume or less water per volume? That's right. There's more water per volume. Why? Because in the same amount of volume, there are fewer solutes dissolved in the water. So effectively, that makes the water have a higher concentration here, a lower concentration on the other side of the membrane. So, all things being equal, what's going to happen? If there are, then the water will move from left to right through the membrane until we get the same concentration of water on both sides. It's easier to see the concentration of the solutes, but it's directly related to the concentration of the solvent, or the water in this case, so that you can end up with more water over here because it takes more water to have the same concentration with all of these solutes. Okay. So that is osmosis. Movement of water through a semi-permeable membrane. Very important for human health. Again, I keep focusing on this, but it's not just human health, but it's really all living things. And here we're talking about mammalian systems, that mammals have red blood cells. And these blood cells are really defined by the presence of the plasma membrane. And in your blood, you can have more or less water depending on how much water you've drank. If you have very little water in your the serum outside of the blood cells, then the water from the inside the cell is going to leave and go into the serum, and it's going to cause the blood cells to shrivel up. And I'm telling you, a lot of times if you feel bad, it's because you're dehydrated, and these blood cells right here are not going to be very good at carrying oxygen. Right? Isotonic means you have the equal concentration of water and solutes on the in and outside of a cell, and so you have the same amount of water coming in and out. Everybody's happy, right? It is possible, you read about this every once in a while, particularly some dude at maybe a fraternity place, that they get into this challenge where they're supposed to drink like gallons of waters in minutes, and what happens is you get so much water outside of the cell, and your kidneys can't remove that water quickly enough, and that water rushes into the blood cell and it ruptures the blood cell. And this blood cell is in a hypo, or the tonicity of the solution is higher than, inside of the blood cell is lower than the outside. Okay. So plant cells, same basic principle. If the cell is in a hypertonic solution, then the water will leave the cell. That will cause the cell to droop. Isotonic, same in, same out. Hypotonic means that more water is rushing into the cell just because there's there's a lower concentration of solutes outside than inside. Okay. And so here you go. And now we talked about the central vacuole. We talked about the cell wall last time. Right? This is just adding in osmosis of the water moving through that membrane to go inside of the cell and make it nice and plump. It's called temperature pressure. It's a good one. We use it in sentence daily. Okay. Some animal cells, again, these are not central vacuoles. These are what we call contractile vacuoles, and they can be useful for these aquatic organisms that are single-cellular paramecium. And if they're constantly dealing with this issue, sometimes they're in hypertonic, sometimes they're in hypotonic, sometimes they're taking on water, sometimes they're losing water. These contractile vacuoles help them. Basically, it's kind of like their excretory system, where they're regulating the water levels inside of their cell, which happens to be their whole body. So that finishes our passive transport, particularly osmosis.